Super Random Dragon.
Okay, I've been away a long time because I've been playing the new Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth game, and it's a long-ass game, but it's totally worth it as I love the Yakuza, aka Ryuga Gotoku, or Like a Dragon series, and have played every game multiple times, and always recommend them to the point of annoying everyone I know. After all, it's the perfect representation of what my channel's about, Super Random Japan. This one is as good as any of the games of the series, and better than most. I still don't think it's the best though, but before I get into any criticisms, I must say I recommend this game to almost anybody. It is worth every penny, even at its release price. The biggest hesitation is the fact that a lot of the story requires knowledge of the previous games, or at least the last main game simply called Like a Dragon in the States, or Yakuza 7, or Ryuga Gotoku 7. The first one using a turn-based RPG combat system. To truly appreciate the whole game, though, you should know pretty much the entire series, as the long-standing main character of Yakuza 1 through 6, Kazuma Kiryu, mild spoiler alert, has cancer. It was revealed in trailers and promotional material. I know, it's so original. Anyway, a huge chunk of the game involves him handling unfinished business, bringing a slew of flashbacks and references from the rest of the franchise. Still, if you're willing to forego a little backstory knowledge, you're in for one of the best JRPGs money can buy. Unlike most JRPGs, or Japanese role-playing games, it takes place in modern-day Earth rather than a fantasy world, spends a ton of time on character party development, more than most, and it's not about just simple romances and shared goals to take down baddies. There's inside jokes, quirks, and other nuances that are more realistic to groups that spend all their time together. It has endless minigames and side quests that you can do anytime you want once unlocked, and most importantly includes a ton of comedy to lighten the mood between the serious and touching moments. Almost all of the side stories contain wacky, off-the-wall humor, even if they're serious as well.
Baby! Save the baby!
This is a very slow escalator.
Save the baby! Save the baby!
For real?
Get that baby! How did it jump?
Gotcha, baby.
Hey, buddy. You okay in there?
Oh, Kasuga-san, wasn't it? How about that?
I can't believe this is the most emotional part of the game.
Thank you, Kasuga. Mr. Gandawara.
The fucking men in diapers side quest.
Boss, what if we run out of diapers?
Dumb question. If it comes down to it, we'll use the ones we got on too.
I don't see many RPGs or games in general blending different moods as well as the Yakuza series, and this game delivers as much as ever. However, I can't say it's the best or even the best within the series. It does have by far the most to do in a single game. You have Sujimon fighting and collecting, which is like Pokemon, Dondoku Island, which I think is a cross between Animal Crossing and SimCity. I've never played Animal Crossing, but that's what I hear. It is like SimCity though. Anyway, you have Crazy Delivery, which is a throwback to Sega's famous Crazy Taxi game from the Sega Dreamcast. There's the Mismatch dating app, a funny game called Spot the Sicko, in which you take pics of weird guys in leotards around town for points in a limited time. Kiryu's bucket list, including lifelinks, memoirs, and unfinished business, and then you got all the classic Yakuza mini-games, such as arcades with full versions of old-school Sega and arcade games, like Sega Bass Fishing, Virtua Fighter 3TB, and Spike Out. There's darts, golf, batting cages. You have comrade games like clubbing, karaoke, and drink links. You have gambling games like mahjong and casino games like poker and blackjack. And there's dining, shopping, fishing, like a different one from bass fishing, and then old cameos and side stories, and so on. You wouldn't even need a story. This game has so many features and is essentially dozens of games in one. Unfortunately, it does have a story, and it's not amazing. And here's where I'll get into my peeves of the game, while avoiding as many spoilers as possible. The story is great at times, with a load of heartwarming moments, funny ones, tear-jerking ones, and even gut-wrenching ones, but I honestly had more fun partaking in the rapport building between the characters and their backstories than the long and somewhat convoluted main story. You really feel like you're one of the group and becoming friends along with them throughout the game. The main story, aside from being a little too unnecessarily overthought or confusing, is that it's often too convenient. Things happen exactly when they need them to, characters show up for weak reasons, and even plot holes are merely addressed by characters saying the extent of, we may never know why, such as Kiryu's bizarre cancer story, as well as some loose ends once the game concludes. You could tell the story was too massive for even them to tie together, but it's still not terrible, it's just a bit bizarre. Speaking of Kiryu, I wasn't totally satisfied with how things panned out on his bucket list. Small spoilers here, without giving away the conclusion. Much like Gaiden, the man who erased his name, I thought Kiryu's Clark Kent act was beyond irritating, and this one is no different. For those who forgot or are out of the loop, Kiryu faked his death several games ago, and has been with a secret organization to keep his cover and his loved ones safe. However, he's loyal to a fault. No matter how much people recognize him or he gets doxxed, he keeps pretending not to be Kiryu. But it got old halfway into Gaiden. It's even more annoying in Infinite Wealth. This is especially frustrating when it comes to seeing friends and family from the past for his bucket list. He claims honor to be a reason to hide, but to me, he was being Daidoji's bitch, and it was very unlike him. The old Kiryu would fight the very entity trying to control him and threatening his loved ones until it collapsed. I am, for the most part, content with how the game truly ended after its credits, but don't want to spoil anything there. Another gripe I have with the story is that most of it takes place in Hawaii. As I stated after playing the trial version, I love the features of Hawaii, and it looks spot on, but it doesn't feel like Hawaii, or even America. It felt like a cool fictional island. Not only is it seen from a Japanese perspective, which is interesting in its own right, but neither of the languages feel right. I found myself preferring the English audio in Hawaii and Japanese in Japan. It was too weird having everyone in Hawaii speak Japanese and vice versa. Obviously, this posed its own problem as the characters for each language have totally different voices. However, I just couldn't tolerate Danny Trejo's face not matching his voice, or the abomination that is Bryce Fairchild.
Madam Nayla, you see, forbids the use of fire in human conflicts. Tempting to shoot will only make things worse for you. Rejoice, for Madam Nele has extended her divine protection to you and your humble establishment.
Madam Nele, mahalo ioi.
Bryce is a white guy who heads a cult-like religious group that supposedly harkens back to the history of Hawaii. Yet, he speaks fluent Japanese and horrendous English if you play the Japanese audio version. As for the main characters, the new character Tomizawa is even Japanese American and a US citizen, but speaks in an accent so thick I couldn't understand it. And I used to teach English in Japan. People who have never spoken it were more understandable than this voice actor.
Officer, help! I'm being robbed! This hoodlum wanted money, and she pointed a gun right at me. Yeah, arrest that scumbag. I'm pissing myself over here.
I don't understand why they couldn't do a believable mix of languages and just use one set of actors. It would make it more realistic to see Ichiban try to stumble his way through America if he had to deal with a realistic language barrier. A company as big as RGG Studios, and especially Sega, should be able to find bilingual voice actors. I understand the main characters were cast before the Hawaii adventure, but again, a character like Tomizawa should have been bilingual from the get-go. Lastly, as to Hawaii, the size of Honolulu, and even Yokohama for that matter, kind of got to me. I preferred the old games where everything was in more compact areas. After all, as I've said before, I believe one of the reasons the creators wanted to make a game in Tokyo from the get-go was to show how much you can do in a small area rather than a massive open world setting. That changed as the series progressed, but it's one reason I love Japan in real life. In America, including Hawaii, you need to travel blocks or miles to get to certain stores or buildings. In Japan, you can have 10 businesses in a single block or even a single building. I have never needed to take a taxi so many times in a Yakuza game as I did in Infinite Wealth. Even the Segway wasn't enough much of the time, and I'd find myself giving up halfway to a destination and taking a cab, especially when I had a ton of money. So like open world games, it's essentially Fast Pass. But now I'm nitpicking, so no more negativity as I still love it overall. Alright, so the story and the setting were really my only gripes with the game. There's other nitpicky things, but some people didn't like the fighting system or thought it was too difficult, needing to spend a lot of time in the quote-unquote dungeons to level up, etc., but I didn't mind that. I only minded because I wanted to get it done to review it. The game is just too huge. Anyone claiming 100% in the first week either got early access, had no job or school and no sleep, is cheating, or is full of shit. Anyway, although this wasn't even the best Yakuza game, I still loved it, and I'm itching to get back to perfecting it as I make this review even. For newcomers, and as an all-around game, I think most people would agree you can't go wrong with Yakuza 0. I felt Yakuza 5 was previously the most ambitious game, with the most main characters to play as in the most cities. As for stories, 3 was one of the better ones, but even 7, or the first Like a Dragon RPG game, had a great story, especially compared to Infinite Wealth. It did a better job of showing how to go from zero to hero. I found it immensely motivational, as I've found myself at rock bottom several times. Although this game is called Infinite Wealth, you get rich mostly through gambling and getting money from people you defeat. In the last game, you literally had to start by picking up coins and recycling trash, going on to eventually running your own company in the end, which they didn't really tie up great between the last game and this one. Anyway, the closest thing to that in Infinite Wealth is that you do go back to picking up coins in the beginning, but quickly lose the need to do that. And while you do run a resort eventually to earn money through the addictive Dondoku Island minigame, still 95% of the money you get in the game comes from unrealistic means, so it's less inspiring. The overall message of the game, however, does remain very inspiring. And while Kazuma Kiryu is one of the manliest alpha males ever to live, Kasuga Ichiban is the goofy, warm-hearted, best buddy character anyone could root for, and I'm looking forward to playing him much more in the future. Just as the game implies or downright explains, times are changing, and the old heroes need to pass the torch. So again, if you don't mind spoilers of previous games and being a little lost, there is more than enough to do in Infinite Wealth to keep you entertained and hooked. The new characters and team-ups stand on their own merit, and if anything, it might make people want to play the rest of the series. I think every game has that potential in the lore. For me, I actually started with Kiwami, then went to Song of Life, and I still went back and played all the rest of the games, and did it multiple times. I have a feeling, though some people might not like this game, or JRPGs in general, I still think anyone should give it a try. If nothing else, wait for a discounted version. Like the other games, they'll likely be around for a long time and possibly even rebooted. There will surely be many more to come. I think that's pretty much it for now, but I will probably do separate smaller videos to address cultural, funny, or interesting aspects of Infinite Wealth, so please like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more super random Yakuza stuff. Thanks. Later.